let's look at that side of the ball, right? Kansas City's offense against Jacksonville's defense. Okay. And I'm looking at the same thing, like you said, the matchup in itself, where Patrick had just been playing stellar football, okay, all year. He just really has. And so, you got obviously Travis Kelce, who's going to be out there, who's going to be balling. Okay, you got to take care of. You got now JuJu is in a factor. Kadarius Toney is another guy who'll be doing it. MVS out there who's going to be at. So you have so many pieces in talking about McKinnon and Pacheco, also too in the running back.
Right.
I'm looking for these guys to start rolling a little bit. I think some of the question has always been about the offensive line. Right?
Yeah.
You know that Jacksonville, man, that pass rush, when I see these jokers, man, they long, they big, they strong. You know, it's going to be like one of those issues. Kind of talk a little bit about that as far as like from the offensive standpoint in Kansas City going against the Jacksonville defense.
The one thing I think that kept Kansas City from winning it, what was that? Was it last year?
Yeah.
Last year was the inability to protect Mahomes at times. And, I think in this game with Jacksonville coming in there, man, and having those young guys, them young studs like they got, man, it's gonna be a tale of the tape, to be honest with you. Because if they can keep if they can keep Mahomes upright, it's gonna be a long night. You know what I mean? Because them guys, one thing about Andy Reid, he's gonna throw that ball vertical. He's gonna throw it vertical, and he's gonna throw it vertical again. He's gonna throw it vertical again after that. They ain't got a problem with taking shots. He's gonna take 10 shots a game, and that part of it you love as a quarterback, because your coach and your play caller ain't afraid to take shots. But in taking those shots, that constitutes having to hold up a lot longer on that offensive line. You know what I mean? And with the studs that Jacksonville have up front, man, it's gonna be tough. So, because Jacksonville creates pressure without even bringing extra guys. You know what I mean? So if you're able to do that with Kansas City and maybe put some type of double team on Kelce, I think Jacksonville's secondary holds up against Scantling and JuJu Smith-Schuster and all that good stuff. But what you have to do, you have to control Mr. Number 87. Because if you don't, it's going to be a long day for you, man. I promise you. But another thing that they have to do up front, man, is make sure they collapse the pocket, because if they don't collapse the pocket and they leave lanes, Patrick will get up out of there. You know what I mean? So he is very, very mobile when he needs to be. And if you create lanes for him to find his way through there, he will slip through there and make plays with his legs. So, along with Jacksonville getting pressure, they have to make sure it's the right pressure and they're collapsing the pocket and not creating lanes for Patrick to escape in.
Yeah. That's I was watching one of the news reports earlier, and they were saying how Mahomes, in preparation for this game, he was watching a lot of the film from the Tampa Bay film from the Super Bowl. Mike Caldwell was the linebackers coach, who's a DC in Jacksonville now. So he's saying he was trying to see the changes in covers and how they do a lot of stuff, and he was watching in preparation for this. He was watching Tampa Bay's footage from that 2020. And also another thing that JD and I we talked about when we played them during the season. I know different team, right? They were 3-7 at the time. We were 7-2 at the time. But one thing we noticed at that time was that they were physical and they were laying the wood on us. Cisco was dominating us. And obviously he had that one hit on JuJu there, which a lot of Chief fans are still pissed off about. But I mean, they were laying the wood on us. And that was something that also in that 2020 Super Bowl, they were physical. They're more physical than us. And that's just going to play a big part in this game. When you say,
yeah, I think it definitely is, man, because if it's one thing that we've been in Jacksonville and one thing that people will always say, because you come from that old school, Jacksonville was in that division back in the day when it was the Ravens, Pittsburgh, Jacksonville, and Tennessee. I think they used to call that before they made the divisions that they're in now, it was the AFC North division. I don't know how Jacksonville got to be a part of that, but it was hell because You know, you playing Pittsburgh twice a year, you playing those guys twice a year, and physical was a part of. You had to be physical to play in that because it was nothing but downhill power, counter running, leads, and all that good stuff. So Jacksonville has always sort of kind of been known for their physical play. You sometimes look at Kansas City as sort of kind of one of those what they were used to call the greatest show on turf, the Rams. They weren't real physical, but they throw the ball around quite a bit and they beat people through the air. But when it's all said and done, the physicality part of it has to show up for Kansas City if they plan on winning this game, because Jacksonville will be physical. They will punch you in the mouth. You got to be able to take it and punch back. And that part of it, one thing, like you said, when he was a linebackers coach at Tampa Bay, and now the coordinator with Jags, Tiger don't change his stripes much. You know what I mean? What he's successful with, that's what he's going to do. He won the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay with it, and I'm sure he's doing some of the same things with, some minor changes here and there. But, if it ain't broke, don't fix it at the end of the day. So, again, Tiger don't never change his stripes. He may get wet and they may get a little fuzzy, but at the end of the day, they're still the same stripes when you look at it.
When he's in a meeting, he's telling them, like, every hit you can get on a guy, get it.
Absolutely.
Take it in.
That's that old Greg Williams mentality. That bounty stuff that Greg Williams used to do. But man, I had a guy that McCray, Bobby McCray, that played at University of Florida, played with us in Jacksonville and went on with the Saints when Greg Williams was the D coordinator when they won the Super Bowl that year. And he will tell us, man, Greg will tell you, whatever you do, get a hit on him. As long as it's in between the whistle, get a hit on him. Get a hit on him. So, with that, Jags have always been a physical team. Even when I played, we were one of the more physical teams in the league those years. And it seems as if they've gotten that part of their identity back.
And it's kind of crazy because that's what people always say. Kansas City is finesse. They're a finesse team, right?
Yeah.
They do all these they're gimmicky, and they do things like that, right? And so I think it's just the brilliance of Andy in itself, what he brings to the table.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And so one thing I know for sure, like you was talking about vertical, but horizontal, he's going to make sure that you cover every blade of grass out there.
Yes, he is.
Field, right?
Yes, he is.
So I love a lot of what he does as far as like trying to out leverage, the defense. And I think it's going to be one of those factors of just, the shifts and the motions to give the defense something to look at, right? And I think he's so great at it, especially like in Arrowhead. I think it's going to be part of the game plan, right? I mean, you have to, especially like
absolutely.
I mean, if with the D line is playing like that, you got to give them something else to look at. Okay,
absolutely.
So, hey man, see ball, go get ball, right?
That's right. That's right.
Looks, so it's a lot of window dressing. I think is one of those things that has to be into the game plan. I'm sure it is going to be.
Right. I think you got to do that to slow those guys down just a tad. You know what I mean? You gotta bring some speed motion. You gotta bring some short motion and make those guys' eyes move. You know what I mean? Make them turn their head to look and see what's going on. You know what I mean? In order to do that, like you said, man, you got to window dress it and give them different looks, because if you stay stagnant, which Kansas City doesn't do, if you stay stagnant and just line up in your formations, man, Jags gonna beat you. I'm just gonna tell you, Jags gonna beat you because they gonna out physical you and find a way just to get it done.
Well, we see that's what the Chargers wasn't really doing. Chargers just line up. They and they play.
The one thing the Chargers were doing it early on. And early on, because they were motioning 13 all over the place, snapping it while he was on the run, throwing quick and all that good stuff. And it seems as if the Jags was just 2-3 steps behind. And then second half, it seems as if they got away from it a little bit, and look how that turned out. So, for me, man, when it comes down to play calling, why go away from what's been working? And if it's been working, like that old adage, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You got up 27 points in the first half with motioning and throwing that ball quick, and you get to the second half and just totally have a different game plan, man, because you you know that they've made adjustments, but you got to come out in the second half and see what type of adjustments they made and see if they were the correct adjustments. You know what I mean? Because if they go make adjustments and they ain't the correct adjustments, well, why are we changing what we're doing? You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, they got in the second half and stopped doing what they were doing, man, and it cost them the game.
Yeah. And you know, you was talking about double teaming Travis. I mean, you got to be able to move Travis around. That's one thing I said, look, you just can't line him up and let linebackers, defense end get a hand on and beat him up. Yeah. Just moving him around because he's so good at slipping by guys and getting open and just, you know, setting them up. And they have such a great relationship and rapport, what they do offensively, especially with him and Mahomes. Yeah, man, this going to be a great game this weekend. I think so too, man. I think it's going to be a good one. I don't foresee a blowout unless we have some stuff like we saw last week. But I foresee these guys coming out, settling down early, and hopefully not allowing the crowd to get into it too early. And if they can keep that under control, man, if they can limit the turnovers and put some pressure on Patrick, they give themselves a great chance.
Hopefully, Andy runs the ball a little bit more than the Chargers did. I think the Chargers only ran it 9 times in the second half.
9 times. Crazy. You got a 27-point lead and you run the ball 9 times. I get it. I don't get it, but I get it now. Now you know, you know what I mean. But man, it's one thing about football. It never changes. It never changes. All that changes is some of the verbiage and, you know, how people get to certain things. But football, the same football as when we played, man, and they just call it different stuff. So, you know, everybody want to be a guru nowadays, and you whatever you did, man, people done did it 3-4 times before. They just called it something different.
Mm-hmm. Right. You see all these gurus losing their job too, don't you?
There you go. Hey, there you go.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts.